Hello, welcome back. My name is June. If you're new here, this channel has something to do with creativity, productivity, and thought, and family, and culture, and just things that I care about. I'm a videographer of sorts, moving away from the industry and just trying to figure out, what I care about in life. And I realized that I just really care a lot about thought and ideas, and that's what I want to do today, is share just a thought I had the other day. So this idea popped up during a conversation I had with somebody named Alex O. He reached out to me on Instagram, and he saw my quitting videography video and just said that, it really resonated with him and stuff like that. So he's a videographer, photographer as well, but he also runs a music production studio down in LA. And the music production studio is called We Are Steady Studio. Anyway, so we were talking. Somewhere along the way in the conversation, the topic of hustle came up. And I think a lot of us know who Gary Vee is and what he was kind of preaching, I guess. And a lot of people misunderstood or understood, I don't know which one, to be honest, his messaging. And pretty much, I guess, it just resulted in a huge influx of people, burning out and just becoming obsessed with productivity and work and grit and grinding. It reached, I guess, unhealthy levels, and now people are backpedaling or trying to go the opposite way, or just basically preaching balance now and just calming down. Just observing this phenomenon, I'm reminded of the fact that people often go through life in this fashion where they go to one extreme and then they kind of backpedal and then go to the other extreme, and then they kind of find their way back to the middle to find some sort of balance and healthy limitations, I guess, or boundaries. So when this came up in the conversation, the thing that popped into my mind was hustling with humility. And maybe somebody's already coined that term. I don't know. If I can take credit for that, that'd be great. But the reason I brought it up and think like that is that I think hustle is a great thing. I think grit is very necessary to life, and to detract from the nature of grit and the beauty of really kind of powering through a difficult time, I think that's doing a disservice to human potential and ability. And referring to the notes, but of course we still must be mindful of burnout and of hustling in the wrong direction. So, hustling with humility. We have to be very intentional with when and how long we hustle. So if I think of like launching a digital product, for example, there's undoubtedly going to be a phase in the beginning where I have to pour in a lot of hours and a lot of effort. That is my period of hustle. And for some reason, we always assume that this period is going to end once it launches, and we are surprised when it doesn't. It at least goes on for another month or two, maybe even longer. And sometimes we just come up with reasons ourselves to keep on hustling and to improve the product and whatnot. I think that just shows, though, that we need to have more realistic expectations or understandings of how long a period of hustle may last, and what is necessary in terms of length and intensity of this period in order to achieve a goal. And this is probably where humility would come in and be the most important thing. Humility is the voice of reason that tells us that we cannot healthily maintain a strong relationship with our loved ones, our health, and our work if we're going all in on work. Humility is understanding that our work is not the most important thing in the grand scheme of the world and humanity. Humility teaches us that though we may be built for short periods of hustle, we simply cannot maintain it without burnout. And finally, humility might allow us to see that we've been sprinting in the wrong direction this entire time and need to pivot. Essentially, humility reminds us that we're human. We're not invincible. We're not machines. We make mistakes. Now, if you're coming off of a huge burnout and strenuous phase of hustle, then work is probably the last thing that's on your mind. You might indeed need to go to the other side of that spectrum and just really focus on rest and restoring balance to your life. But if you're a person in the middle of trying to build something, and all of a sudden you hear people around you telling you to be mindful of your health and to be careful and not to fall into this hustle culture or mindset, you might be a little bit confused. But if I were you, I would just take a step back and I would assess how I'm doing. Can you afford to keep sprinting? Are any of your relationships in jeopardy? How are you doing mentally? Can you afford a burnout in the next couple of months? Is it worth risking a burnout? Will it be worth it? Are you sure this is something that you want to do? Perhaps even, are these questions even worth asking right now, especially if you're just in the beginning stages with trying to build something? Maybe these questions should just be saved for a later conversation with yourself once you've actually reached a milestone. All questions worth considering. So I definitely cannot argue against being mindful of rest and your well-being. I think that's great. I think that's right. But I also cannot say that fervor or hustle are obsolete notions or are negative at their core. Because like most things in life, we need to strike balance. But we also need to understand that balance does not mean maintaining it 24/7. Balance can also look like going to extreme ends of a spectrum and going back and forth until you find something that's suitable for you, that you can maintain, or every couple of years you just go one way to the other. Overall, I think we just have to remain humble and remind ourselves that we don't have all the answers. We'll just need to adapt and learn as we go. Anyways, that's it. Just sharing some thoughts I had about hustle and grit. I do think that this is a great pivot and a good conversation to have, to acknowledge that perhaps we do put very unrealistic expectations on ourselves and that we glorify kind of unhealthy pursuits of success. But also I just think that we have to be wary of going too far in the other direction, because that's typically how things go, I think, when we are learning to navigate a new space. So yeah, just to reiterate, hustle and grit I think are great things. It just has to be limited and used intentionally. Anyways, thank you so much for your time and watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it valuable, or at least food for thought. I think that's what I'm going for, just food for thought. There are a lot of other videos on this channel as well, trying to accomplish the same thing. So if that's something you're into, please subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. I've also set up a page on, I think it's pronounced Ko-fi.com. If you want to support me there, buy me a coffee. That'd be amazing as well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.